everyone. Welcome to episode 148 of the Arieknits podcast. My name is Ariel, and this is a video podcast where I talk about all the things that I've been knitting and spinning on for the past week. Today it is Saturday, February 28th. We are at the end of the month of February, and we're heading straight into March, and I have quite a bit of updates to share with you all today. I have a couple of mostly finished objects, and I'm calling finished objects because the knitting is done. And I have a couple of new cast-ons as well, which those I'm very excited to share with you all. And then I just have some normal updates on my current whips. So let's get started. Let's start with what I'm wearing today. I don't have any new finished objects that I haven't worn yet, like, new ones that usually when I finish one, then I wear it in the next podcast, but I don't have one yet. Probably next podcast I will. But so I was digging through my wardrobe and trying to figure out what I wanted to wear. I wanted to pick something that I haven't worn in a while, something that I didn't finish last year. I wanted something a little bit older than that, and I came across this sweater. And this was made back in 2022, so it's been quite a few years. This is the Dad Sweater by Emily Curtis. The yarn I use is Lobby and Aimee Corrie worsted in the colorway Highgarden. And I knit size 1. I used US 6 needles, 4.0 millimeter needles to knit this. Final measurements, 36 inches circumference, which gives me about 6 inches of positive ease. And this sweater is very special to me because I made this as a test knit for Emily, and I think that it was the first test knit that I did for her. And this was before we were friends. And so I was already watching her podcast. I was following her on Instagram. That's how I saw the test knit call. And I was really excited to be testing for her. And then as part of the group chat that we all had for the test knit, there were, I think quite a few people kind of in the Seattle area. And so they were like, hey, if anyone's interested, we could meet at a crafternoon at La Mercerie, which is a yarn store on Bainbridge Island that Emily used to work at. And they're like, we can all meet up and kind of knit on it there, or, just for a fun meetup for the test knit. And I was like, yes, I am interested. And so through that, I met Sylvan and Katie, and that was the first time I met them. That was the first time I met Emily, and I had a great time. I was kind of nervous because this was the first time that I went out to craft, to knit with anyone else besides myself. I've never met anyone, and at that time I had no friends who also knit, not really. And so this was I felt like a big step for me, to be meeting strangers basically to knit and to craft. And so I was nervous, but everyone was so nice. I had a great time, and then I feel like the rest is history because now they're my friends, and I'm so happy that they're my friends, and we made other friends in our friend group. And yeah, I'm so happy that I feel like, if I hesitated on going to the test knit meetup or, the crafternoon that day, I don't know where I would be in terms of my knitting friends here in the Seattle-ish area. And I feel like it was just meant to be, and I love them so much. So thank you, Emily, for doing this test knit and for choosing me to test knit for you, because that I feel like was, I don't know, just kind of like a big moment in my life, the start of having such great friends, such great knitting friends and all of that. So yeah, this sweater just has all of those good memories, and so this makes me very happy to be wearing it today. And yeah, okay, now after all of the nice, happy things about this sweater, I do want to say one sad thing about this sweater. There is a reason why I don't really reach for this sweater too often, and that's just because of the yarn. This was the recommended yarn for the sweater, and so I wanted to use the recommended yarn. I think this was the first time I used a Lobby and Aimee yarn as well, and so I was very excited about it, and it felt really kind of good in the hands, when you are just touching the skeins. It's not, I knew that it wasn't the most soft, but I was I think it's fine. After some time, I think I kind of was told myself like, oh, it's like kind of prickly, kind of itchy, but like I can deal with it. But I think at some point I was like, I have so many other sweaters that I've knit that are more comfortable and less itchy. And so I just grabbed those sweaters to wear instead of this one. And it has nothing to do with the pattern. I love the pattern. I love the fit of this. I should stand up so you can see the full length of this. And it's just, look at this. It's such a nicely proportioned sweater. There's positive ease, but it's not super baggy. The length is great. It's just a nice stockinette sweater, 1x1 rib here. It's a folded 1x1 rib collar at the neck. Nice and spacious sleeves. There are shoulder shaping short rows here, and it's nice and spacious in the entire arm, but nice decreases all the way to the wrist, and so it's nice and fitted at the wrist, and I love that so much. And anyway, I love the fit of this sweater, so it's just the only reason why I don't reach for the sweater to wear is just because the yarn is a bit prickly for me. And lately I've been, I feel like a little more sensitive than even like a couple years ago to the yarn to the yarn I'm wearing as garments. And so even less so, I feel like sadly don't reach for this one. What I do reach for my second dad sweater, which I made with some handspun. I do wear that one a lot more often than this one. And I do have plans to make more dad sweaters in hopefully the near future, probably this year. So I'm excited for that because I love this sweater. I need it again in a less prickly yarn. So that's the only reason, but I don't think I will keep this sweater. I will never rip it out because of all the good memories that I have associated with it. So, and I'll still wear it. Like, I think today I'm going to experiment. It's been a while, and so I'm wearing it today, seeing how I feel. I actually feel quite fine now. I do feel the prickliness on my arms, but the rest and also the neck is not too bad right now. So, yeah, it was also just kind of like hidden in a drawer that was hard to get to, and so I just never really like looked at it for a while. But yeah, this is a dad sweater by Emily Curtis, and even though the yarn's kind of prickly, I'm very happy with it, and I love it. I love the color, I love the fit, and all that. So anyway, that's what I'm wearing today. Okay, let's move on to my mostly finished objects for this week. Here's the first one. This is the Manhattan Hat Bulky by Tori. I use Pasley Knits Cloud yarn in the colorway Aries, and I knit the adult medium size, and I use US 9 needles, 5.5 millimeter needles to knit this. And this is my third Manhattan Hat Bulky, specifically the bulky version. I've knit multiples of the other yarn weights as well. But here it is. I didn't fold it so that you can see the full length of this, because this is the first time I've made a double folded brim for this hat. So this one isn't completely done yet because I did not wash and block it yet. And so I think it's going to bloom a bit and kind of relax a little bit more after I do that. But I will fold this and then put it on my head, at least for today, so you can see what it looks like. So I folded it twice. And then here it is. And it's really nice and cozy. This is the first time that I've used this yarn base as well, and it's so soft and light and fluffy. And I think I only use half of the skein to make the adult medium and like the double brimmed length of this hat. And so I have enough yarn of this skein to make another one. And so I honestly probably will do that and gift it to a friend or something, because yeah, this yarn feels so soft and it's so nice. And so I would recommend this yarn base for a hat. It feels really, really nice. So I'm very excited about this one. And yeah, this was also my third single skein project of the year. It feels kind of weird because I'm not using like the full skein, but I guess also when I was doing socks last year, a pair of socks uses maybe like 50 to 60 grams of yarn, of like fingering weight yarn. So that's not the full skein either, right? So maybe it's all right. But so this was my third single skein project of the year. That would normally correspond with the month of March, and we're not in March yet, although it's very soon. And so I'm gonna just like keep going with the single skein projects. I feel like maybe at some point I might slow down. So as far as the momentum keeps carrying me, I'm just gonna like keep going. But yeah, so here is Manhattan Hat Bulky. I'm excited to wear this. I'm hoping to wash and block it and for it to be dry so I can wear it to Rose City Yarn Crawl next weekend, because I think that would be really nice. So yeah, so that's my first mostly finished object. And then my second one is I finished knitting. I have not finished weaving in the ends, and also then did not wash and block yet. But the test knit that I'm doing for Tori U of the Prospect Tee, I'm using Explorer Knits Denali sock in the colorway Butterfly Pea Flower. And I knit size 1, and I use US 4 needles, 3.5 millimeter needles to knit this. And I really wanted to get this done this week. Also because, well, it's a test knit, and so I needed to get working on it. And then I cast on a few things, which we'll talk about later. And I was like, okay, I need to get something off the needles. And the closest thing to get off the needles was this top. So let me hold it up. Ow! Here it is. It is so cute. So cute. Okay, you can see my stitch marker here. So I just had a lot of body to do left, and then the hem ribbing, and it didn't take too long. I mean, this is actually quite a bit of body length to have knit. It's a fingering weight pattern, and you know, I still think what was very odd was like the stitch pattern is kind of like in a striped pattern, right? And so I would have thought that having like a stripe thing would make it feel like it's easy or like quick to knit, in the sense where it's like, oh, I'll just do like one more stripe, right? There's something about this that felt way slower than I was expecting, and so that was a bit difficult like for me to be motivated on, but I did a lot this week and I'm very happy about it, and I'm done. I just need to weave in the ends. I wove in some of the ends, just not all of them, but look how nice it is. This color is amazing, and I'm so happy I chose it for this pattern. And yeah, I think that it's going to bloom quite nicely with washing. Like, it looks a tad, I don't want it to grow a lot, but I think it'll just a little bit kind of like flatten out a bit. So I'm excited for that. I guess I can show you the back. It's just all over the same texture. You can see the line here of the pickup, like for the front. There's nice shoulder shaping on here. And yeah. So this will probably be the next thing that I wear on the podcast. Not next week, because Rose City Yarn Crawl is happening, so I'll mention this again at the end, but no podcast next weekend. But the weekend after, I should be good, and so I will probably wear this then, so that you can see it on. And yeah, so I'm very excited about this. My first test knit of the year, first test knit done, and I feel good about it. Feel very good about it. So yeah, that's the Prospect Tee test knit. I don't really have plans to want to do more test knitting. I want to be very, I don't know what I'm trying to say right now. I really like test knitting for Tori U. I feel like it's a very like simple, easy process. There's usually not many mistakes, not any like crazy mistakes in the pattern, and so it's a very easy flowing test knit experience. She's very responsive, and so I find it to be a smooth process. And so this one I was excited to do a test knit. I am thinking, I don't know, I've just not really been in the test knitting mood lately, even like the end of last year, or maybe most of last year too. Like, I test knit, but not as much as I used to. And yeah, I'm just kind of feeling like wanting to knit all the things that I have plans for already, and so adding in sometimes new things is like kind of gets my plans out of control a little bit. But I was happy to do this one. and to have like a tee to work on the needles, even though it's cold now, but now I have something new and fun and exciting to wear once the weather gets warmer. So yeah. So anyway, yeah. Prospect Tee Test Knit by Tori. Okay, let's move on to my whips. Okay, we're gonna start with this one, my Mitered Blanket by Purl. Soho, leftover yarn, fingering weight yarn held double. I'm following the instructions for size small, and I'm using US 6 needles with 4.0 millimeter needles to knit this. And I just knit 6 squares this week to finish up this top row here. So I did like what's in between my fingers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I had to make up for 1 square from last week because my goal is at least 5 a week. I think that seems reasonable and doesn't make me too scared and not want to knit. And so I feel like 5 is reasonable. Last week I accidentally did 4. I thought I did 5, but it was just 4. So I made up for 1 last week, and then I did, 5 for my normal week this week. And I am back to having even sides. I didn't count. I don't know if this is a square or a rectangle, but I have fully finished rows and columns. And so this coming week I'm gonna start another one, and we'll see how that goes. And I've been more successful this week, I think, in not being stumped too much by like, what color do I do next? I kind of just like, as long as it's not the exact same one as the ones next to it, I'm like, sounds good to me. And so yeah, I felt better about working on it this week. It felt faster. Like, it felt like I wasn't so like, had to get over the hump of like, okay, what color am I going to knit this next square? So yeah, so that was nice. I'm still chugging away at this blanket. I really hope I can get it done this year. And I really want to get it done like way before the end of the year. But we'll see. I'm liking so far 5 a week. 5 a week seems reasonable. At least 5 a week. It would be nice if I like had a burst of motivation to do a whole bunch more than that, but 5 a week seems I can do that. Okay, let's talk about this next one. I need to find it in my bags here. This is the DRK Everyday Sweater by Andrea Mowry. I'm using my handspun Zeezee Textiles Rambouillet fiber in the colorway Elberdritchel, and I am knitting size 1. I'm using US 5 needles, 3.75 millimeter needles to knit this. And I made good progress on this week. So, I just realized, okay, I'm gonna just hold up what I have. Ooh, it's looking like a sweater. So I think that I finished up my first skein, which it was a gigantic skein. But I think this is where I was last week. I hope that the stitch marker wasn't like I forgot to move it, but I think so. So I finished up that ball of yarn, and then I moved on to sleeves. So I do have one finished sleeve here, and then I'm almost done with the second sleeve. I actually just need to do the ribbing, the cuff on this, because all the decreases are done now. And so I am very close to finishing the second sleeve, and then I can go back to the body and kind of finish that up. And so this sweater is looking very, very close to being finished. And I'm extremely excited about it. I cannot wait to have this and to wear it. I've been wanting to make this sweater for quite some time because I have a couple of friends who've made the DRK Everyday Sweater and they really like it. And when I made this sweater spin, when I spun it last year, I think it was like early in the year too, I spun it specifically to make this sweater. And so it's been some time since I've had this idea in my head. And so I'm really excited to finally see it looking like a sweater, having some sleeves. So that's really nice. I did make a modification for the sleeves because I've heard both from like my friends and also just like people on Ravelry who are like have project pages for this, and I think it's kind of a general comment for Andrea Mowry patterns too, a little bit, is that the sleeves can be a little bit small, like a small circumference. And just looking at when I had it on like the stitch holders, I was like, it's looking a little small. And so what I did was, after you pick up and you kind of knit a few rounds of the sleeve at the top, so I tried this on, and the sleeve is still a fitted sleeve. Like, there's not really too much positive ease there. It's quite fitted throughout, even though there's decreases. But what I decided to do is, you can see where my stitch markers are. So this was like where the pickup happens for the sleeves. And then this is where my first decrease is. And it looks kind of close, but I think in the pattern for my size, it says to start decreasing at 1/2 inch from the pickup. And I decided to do 2 inches from the pickup. So that, and then I did do some math. So like, if I wanted to do the same number of decreases, because I felt like the cuff circumference is something that I want. Like, I want to reach there. And so I did do the sleeve decreases in the decrease rate, like knit. I think for Andrea Mowry, it is, knit a certain number of, like a length versus how many rounds. So it's a length and then decrease. So decrease every whatever length. So I did that, and I was still able to, this stitch marker is where my last decrease is. So I did still have some like straight knitting to do before I reached the length I wanted to do the cuff. But I kind of just like shifted everything. I shifted the decreases closer to the cuff than it would have been if I started them earlier. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I said a lot of words there, but yeah, I shifted a little bit down so that it would hopefully be less tight at the top, but I still wanted the circumference at the cuff, at the wrist. So yeah, I think it's going to work out nice. We'll see how this blocks as well. It is a Rambouillet, and so it might kind of like poof up a bit, and so we'll see. But it is a more fitted sweater than I'm used to kind of making for myself, but I don't think it's so tight where it'll be uncomfortable, and so I am quite excited to see how this feels, how this wears, and it feels so nice. And I love knitting with my handspun, so this is really great. And this is my first handspun sweater where I used like a color changing fiber, so that I have, stripes of different colors throughout. And so this is really fun. This is my third sweater spin turned into a sweater. And so, yeah, it's just really exciting and fun. So, yeah, almost done. I think in the next 2 weeks, maybe it will be done for the next podcast, which is going to be in 2 weeks. So, yeah, exciting update for that one. And then I just have a quick update on this project. I am knitting so many Andrea Mowry sweaters right now. I did not do it on purpose. It kind of just happened this way. But here's a progress update on my my Birch Pullover by Andrea Mowry. I am using Explorer Knits Denali sock in the colorway I Don't Cause Commotions. I Am One from the Wicked collection. I'm knitting size 1, and I'm using US 2 needles, 2.75 millimeter needles to knit this. It's just a quick update. I really didn't make too much progress on this week because I was working on some other projects. And so this is my stitch marker. I just worked, that might not even be an inch of body there. And so not much progress, but I thought I would just hold it up and show it to you. Also because this is so pretty to look at. This yarn is so pretty. I'm really looking forward to having a full Birch Pullover in this colorway. It's so pretty. So, yeah, again, no major updates. I think that all I did this week was like connect to my second ball of yarn and knit a little bit, and that's kind of all I did. So, but yeah, I am connected to second skein of yarn. I'm just gonna keep working on the body until we're at a length that I like or I run out. It'll be interesting to see. So this is my third Birch Pullover. The other ones I've always knit the sleeves right after I finished my first skein, which was like very close under the arm. Like there's not that much body there. But this time around, I am going to finish knitting the body before I do the sleeves. Or if this skein doesn't get me all the way to finish the body, then I will switch for sleeves and then finish the body. So yeah, so that's my plan, but I've got a long way to go on that Birch Pullover. Okay, last, I have 3 sweaters by Andrea Mowry on the needles right now. This one I also didn't get too much done, but I'm just going to show you the progress anyway. This is the Brume by Andrea Mowry. I'm using Sorella Woolly yarn in the colorway London Fog, and I'm knitting size 1 using US 7 4.5 millimeter needles to knit this. And I'm just going to hold it up. Again, it looks basically the same as last time. I finished the second ball of yarn. And so here's my stitch marker from last week. I just finished up that last bit of the yarn that I had, and so I do have to now skein up another, wind up another skein of this yarn to continue. Ooh, but at this point, for this one, I'm going to move on to the sleeves and see how that goes. And so that should be exciting. I need to move, before I start the sleeves, I need to move these needles, the body needles, onto some stitch, probably one of these cords, so I can try it on and then make sure everything's still looking okay, and then I'll move on to sleeves. So that's the plan for the Brume. Just a quick update on that one. And then, okay, here we go. Here is where the bulk of my attention was on my projects this week. Okay, my Midland Cardigan by Laura Penrose. I'm using brown sheep yarn, Prairie Spun DK in the colorway Honeycomb. I'm knitting size 1, and I'm using US 7 needles, 4.5 millimeter needles to knit this. And I made so much progress on this. And it's just a little squished on my needles right now, and so this might be a little tricky to show it. Okay, I think I have it. Here we go. Ta-da! I'm almost done with the body, as you can maybe tell. I finished if I just like hold it like this is the right side. Here's the armhole. Finish the back, and then I'm just about gonna start the short rows for the left side for the, what you call that, shoulder or like arm hole shaping, just the side shaping. So here it is, almost done, and I have this idea to try and get this done, like finish knitting, weave in ends, wash and block before Rose City Yarn Crawl, because I bought this yarn last year at Rose City Yarn Crawl, and so I thought it'd be kind of fun to also wear it for this year. But you know, that's a lot of knitting, and then I like cast on some other projects this week. I think if I didn't cast on new projects this week, I would have gotten even more of this done, but the new cast-ons really derailed me a bit on this, but I could still maybe make it. We'll see. But yeah, last week, here, my stitch marker, if I hold it sideways, because this is a sideways knit, so it's all in garter stitch, but it's worked sideways, which I think is a very cool construction. Here's my stitch marker from last week. And if I hold it, if you remember, there was a Judy's Magic cast on along this side here, and so the rows were worked like this around the front and the back. And so last time I was here, so that was kind of like about this much of knitting, if this is like the midway point, right? And then I finished, so this week I finished the right, like from the stitch marker this way for the front. It's a V-neck shaping, and so there was some, I think it was short rows done to make that shaping here. And then you continue on and turn it around for the back. So, oh goodness, here, let me turn it around. So this is where, you know, the front and the back kind of separate, and then I work this way. I did connect my second ball my second skein of yarn here, and then I continued working, and then you can maybe even see the construction here. So, oops. So this is what's on my needles right now. It's this very long piece, but you can see this part is the back. Make sure my stitches don't fall off. This part is the back, and this part is the front. And so I'm working back and forth that way, and then at the end, it will be connected, folded in half. It'll be connected this way on the side on the left. And so it's a very exciting construction. I am very pleased with the progress on this and just like how fast it feels like it's going. It is a DK weight yarn, and so I think that helps with speed, kind of, you know, versus this fingering weight thing. But sometimes garter stitch, even though it is just all knit, sometimes it feels like it grows slowly. But for this one, it's flying. It's flying. And so I'm having a great time knitting this. And this is how much yarn I have left of my current ball of yarn that I'm attached to. And so I think maybe that is also partly why I was like, for some reason, I was like, I will cast on something new this week versus wind the next ball of yarn for this. I don't know why my mind went there, but I do need to wind up another skein so I can continue on. And we'll see if I finish this for Rose City. I'm not pressuring myself to do it, but I think it would be a fun thing to do. Also, this is my third project on my Make 9 for this year, and so if I could get this done in time, that does mean I will finish it in March. And I feel like if I'm trying to, at least in the beginning of the year, try to finish one thing from my Make 9 per month, then I'll be good, you know, to get them done in the year. So getting this done at the beginning of March would be really nice. And yeah, so all positive things about this cardigan. And yeah, so after I finish the body, of course I have the sleeves to do and then the button band. And so yeah, it still feels like a bit more to do, but I'm excited about it, and I feel great about it. Even though I took a break on it for my new cast-ons this week, I still feel very motivated to work on the Midland cardigan. So yeah, so that's the update on that one. And then, okay, the next two things are my new cast-ons. And then, okay, when I show you this one, you will understand why my other projects didn't get as much love this week, because this one got all the love. Okay, I cast on the Saski Sweater by Saskie & Co. I am using ampersand fibers, Caslon fingering in the colorway Pompadour 02 and Oat 01. And I am knitting size 2. I'm using US 4 needles, 3.5 millimeter needles to knit this. And oh boy. Okay, before I hold it up, I just want to say, this is my first time knitting something from Saskie & Co. And I have been following her for a while, and I love bunnies. Like, I've always found bunnies to be very cute as like a real animal, plus just like cartoon, like pictures, you know, stickers, blah, blah, blah. And so when I saw her knit designs and they had like Colorwork bunnies on them, I was like obsessed, and I've always wanted to make one of her patterns, and it just like hasn't happened. And so there was something about this week that I was like, I am going to do it. I have yarn in stash. I'm gonna cast on. So this is my first time knitting a pattern by her, and then I will hold up what I have. It's a little squished on my needles, so please bear with me. Yeah, I made a lot of progress on this week, and I cast it on like in the middle of the week as well, so it wasn't even the whole week. I went crazy on this, but it makes me so happy. Okay, this is knit top down. It is a circular yoke, and it's Colorwork, and so I feel like I go through phases of doing Colorwork. It's not my most favorite thing, but there's sometimes where I'm like, it's definitely worth it, and I think in this case, it's definitely worth it. And so here you can see the one detail I really like with the cast on. It is a little annoying and fiddly, but you cast on with your, in this case it's main color, which is my purple color yarn. You cast on with that color, and then you immediately just start knitting with your other color, which is my oat color, my more kind of gray color here. And then, oh, look at this color work. Okay, I am hoping that, it's been a while since I did color work. I'm hoping that blocking will help kind of like relax some of this. There is some puckering happening. That's just a me color work technique, but I'm going to try and like flatten this out so you can see the pattern here. It's like a moon. I think some stars, just a little, like little pattern there. I think it's clouds, and then of course a cute little bunny. And okay, and this is all, all around, front and back. When I cast this on, obviously I wanted to get to see the bunnies, but I cast this on, I did the ribbing, I started doing the color work. Oh, this is also fingering weight yarn, and so I was like kind of nervous about it, but anyway, okay, I was knitting the yoke, doing the increases, and then I was like, I need to get to the bunnies. Like I cast this on because of the bunnies, so I need to at least knit to the point where I could see the bunnies. And so that is where a lot of my knitting time went, was just on this, because I was like, I have to get to the bunnies. And I made it to the bunnies, and then I was like, wow, it's so cute, but I want to also now get to the point of splitting for sleeves, or like, connecting in the round for the body. And so I then had to finish. There's just a little more, sorry, I'm moving this around. I'm trying to get this flat so you can see this. A little more kind of like details here. And then I was like, okay, I split. Here's the side view of this. I split for the sleeves and the body, and then I was like, well, I want to knit more of the body so I can like get to a point where I can actually try this on and see how it's fitting. I did do it right after I split, but I was like, it's not really great, you need a little more body to get a better feel for the fit. And so I just knit more, and then I am like, here's my first skein of my main color here. I have this much left, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna keep going. And so that is how I ended up with this much of a sweater in less than a week. I just couldn't stop. It's so cute. And yeah, so okay, sizing wise and gauge wise, I am quite off. I think that my stitch gauge is a little big and my row gauge is a little small. And so I'm in this kind of like awkward area where I'm not really sure what to do. But I am using the recommended needle size, like did I say needle size? US 4 3.5 millimeter needles. And the yoke part fits fine. I think it fits really nicely, and it is at a length under like where it reaches before I split for the body and sleeves, where it feels nice. But for the rest of the body, it's just in stockinette in the main color. And I checked my gauge there, and it's off. It's gonna be bigger. It's bigger, and so stitch gauge is bigger. And so what I decided to do was to just decrease on the sides. And so I decreased twice to, what am I trying to say? I did 2 decreases on each side twice. And so that is 8 stitches decrease total now in the body. And I'm gonna like keep going. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep going until I run out of my first skein, and then I'm gonna try it on and see how it feels. And then I'll start the sleeve next. And I really want to get to that point because I am a little nervous about yardage for this. And I am nervous about gauge and fit and all of that. So again, also that for me is a motivation to knit a whole bunch on a thing, is if I'm worried about yarn. So because I only have 2 skeins of my purple main color, and then I'm done. I'm pretty much done with the oat contrast color. The only thing I think I need it for is just like the edging. So similar to up here where it's purple edge, I think for the sleeves and for the body, I think the edge is going to be in the contrast color, but I have a lot of that. I actually had a full skein of the Oat 01 color left over from, I made my Stria cardigan years ago, and this was my main color, and I had one skein extra, and so that's kind of where that one came in. And the other two I bought because I like the color, and I just like never, I had some ideas for it and it just never happened, but I think it'll be fine. Like, I'm actually shocked at how much of this one skein of the purple color has gotten me, and so I'm hoping the second skein will get me enough for both sleeves and to finish the body. I'm hoping. And if not, then everything will be maybe slightly cropped. I'm already gonna follow the instructions for the cropped body, and then I'll probably just do, if I have enough yarn, then I want to do the bracelet length sleeves. I think it looks cute that way for this one. And if not, it might just end up being kind of like short. Like, we'll just see how it goes. So I do need to kind of like keep an eye out for how much yarn I have left while I'm working on this. But it's so cute. I can't stop looking at it. And I'm so happy I'm finally knitting this. And there's other patterns by Saskie & Co. I think her name is Wei Qian. But there's so many other patterns that have like bunnies on them, and even like different looking bunnies. Like this one's kind of like sitting, but there's one where it looks like it's running, and it's so cute. And so yeah, I'm excited to kind of have, you know, my first pattern by her kind of like made so that I can make some of her other patterns. I actually do own a couple of her other patterns. I think I have like a sock pattern that I own. I think that at some point, and I had it for a few years. I think it was maybe a discount at some point. And so I was like, oh, like I would just buy them now. I've never made them. And so I'm just hoping, you know, this one gets me motivated, and then I'll move on to the other patterns as well. So this was my fun, new, unexpected cast on. I had no plans to cast this on this week. There was just something, what was it? I mean, maybe work was a bit tough this week for me, and I think I needed something fun and exciting to look forward to, and I think this just somehow came up in my mind. And I'm very happy about it. So yeah, I hope you guys like it too. I will say one thing is, I think that there's not as much contrast in these colors as I thought there would be. So some of the details I think are a little lost in my color choice, but I think it's enough. It's enough so you can see the bunnies. All I need is to see the bunnies, and that's kind of it. So yeah, here it is. I'm very, very happy with this. I feel like I'm in kind of like this like purpley color kind of mood lately. Okay, and let's see. Oh, my second cast on, which I like just cast on today. So there's actually not much done on it. And so this did not take up most of my knitting time this week. It really was the Saskie pattern that took up all my time this week. And so much time I did not really spin this week. I spun a little bit, but not enough where I did not take my bobbin off of the wheel, because I didn't even finish like a full kind of like fillet row, like move down the bobbin once. I didn't even get to that point. So I didn't bring it down. I spun, but just not that much this week because I was knitting so much on my Saski pullover. Okay, but anyway, moving on to my next cast on. I saw this pattern, I think yesterday. I think I saw it yesterday, and it was by a pattern designer I've never seen before, and so I ended up following them because I really like this pattern, and I was just like, why not just cast it on? I'm feeling very excited about this. It is a new-ish technique that I was like, I'm so curious on how this works, and so I cast it on this morning. It is the Folk Flower Scarf by Caledonia Dreamin', and I'm using some leftover yarn from a very recent project, and so I feel very good about it. I'm using Knit Picks High Desert Sport Weight the yarn I used for my Yonagi cardigan, and I'm using just two of the colors though. Mustang Heather, which is a dark brown, and then Alder, which is a lighter brown. And this is a one size pattern. I'm using US 4 needles, 3.5 millimeter needles to knit this. And this is just so cool. As you could probably see from the pictures that I posted or put up here, it is a double knit scarf. But I've never done a double knit where the pattern is like mirrored. So it's a double knit where the main color on each side is, you know, its own color, and then the pattern is the opposite color from the other side. And I was like, how do you do this? Because the way that I have always done double knit, so like double knit button bands or any stuff like that, is, you know, you knit, slip, knit, slip, knit, slip, knit, slip. And so you're kind of essentially just kind of like making a tube, but then it's folded together in half. And so on both sides of that, it is a, you know, knit, stockinette, knit stitch, and then the edging on that's really nice. But I was like, how do you do it with a kind of like switched color pattern? Like, how does that work? How do you do I don't think I've done a double knit where one side is one color and the other side's the other color. Like, I just don't think I've ever done that. So I was very intrigued by this, and I wanted to try it right away. So I cast this on, and I'm going to hold up what I have. It is very tiny. I literally just started, but you can see the triangle shape starting to form. Yes, I am using needles that the cable is way too long for the project, but it's fine. It's what I had. But here it is. You can see the increases are happening on one side right now. So this side is the dark brown and the other side is the light brown. And I want to be completely transparent and honest with you all about my start on this. So this is a new technique for me, and sometimes I have the brain space to do new techniques, and sometimes I don't, right? Like, a lot of the times it involves me watching a video. This pattern does have video links to their videos of explaining the technique and doing it, and so that was fantastic. Sometimes I just don't have the brain space to watch a video, but this time I did. I was very looking forward to it. Like, I really wanted to do it and dive in. And I restarted this like 4 times. I knit a little bit and I was like, oh my gosh, I did it wrong. Rip it back. And I tried it again. I was like, nope, still wrong. Rip it back. Try it again. I'm like, I made a different mistake this time. Rip it back. And so I want to be honest with you all in saying that knitting does a lot of the time involve making mistakes and then figuring out what happened and then trying again. And I think what's the great thing about knitting in particular, I guess also crochet, just yarn things in general, if you're not cutting the yarn, is that you can always rip it back and start again and your yarn is fine. I feel like that's why sewing is a bit scary to me, because once you cut your fabric, you can't uncut your fabric. But for knitting, you can just rip it out and start again. And so this is a very common thing for me to do with new techniques. I remember a brioche cardigan that I knit years ago where I restarted that thing like probably 6 or 7 times before I got it right. And it just happens, you know, you gotta do it, and in the end you get something that actually works, like once you figure it out. And so, and nothing against the video. The video was clear. I just did some things wrong. You know how sometimes you watch a video and then when you rewatch it again, you're like, oh, I missed that part the last time. Also, this video is in French. There are English subtitles, and so it is a little bit like I'm reading the subtitles, watching the video, and all of that. But I eventually got it, and so I am doing, I think, great right now. I'm feeling good about the technique here. And I think what's interesting is you are knitting, so with like a double knit button band, you kind of like, because you're slipping stitches every other stitch, you're kind of like, you know, knitting the first side and then knitting the back side. But for this technique, you're knitting with both colors at the same time. So you're kind of doing like a knit knit on the first side, purl on the back side, knit on the first side, purl on the back side, all at the same time. And so you're knitting both the front and back for each pass that you go through. And I think that that's nice. As far as like holding the yarn for this, in the video, I do not know how she's holding it or wraps it around, but she is holding the yarn, both yarn on her right hand, and she does explain like how to hold the yarn so that, you know, they're like separate like this, and to hold it like this with your right hand and then to knit. But I can't do that. I don't knit. I forget, is that English style? I don't hold my yarn in my right hand. I hold it in my left hand. And so I did have to experiment a little bit on my own, like what's going to work well for me to knit the continental style for this, because you keep going back and forth between the colors. And I think I figured it out. And so I feel positive about that. One of the challenges that I had was the designer in the video mentioned that because this is, it is like stacked together, right? Like there's no, obviously they're connected on the sides, like you can't pull them apart. But one of my cast on attempts, they were not attached on the sides, like it was open. And I was like, what is happening? And she does mention it in the video. I just like it was one of those things where I had to rewatch the video like the third time, and then I caught it, where you have to twist your yarn a certain way so that, or just twist it after a certain stitch, so that the first stitch, so that it will, you know, catch and then keep them, the nice edges, and for it to be attached together and not loose. And so anyway, I know this is kind of just a lot of information, but I did want to share with you all just kind of like the learning process that I had just doing this little bit here. And so yeah, there's something about, I think, this week with like my new cast-ons and then wanting to do this where I'm excited. I am pumped up by this. I'm so excited. And so I do think that, at least for today, I will be working on this probably for the rest of today. And as you saw in the picture of this pattern, there is like a flower motif on it, and I want to get to that part so bad. And so I think I'm gonna just be knitting on this a whole lot. And I feel like this might be a good candidate for a gift knit, or for gift knits for people, and I want to do different color combinations. And so I am just really pumped by this. I really like I think this color combo is good. There's enough contrast where you'll be able to see it. And this is a sport weight yarn, and the pattern calls for a sport weight yarn. But we'll see final measurements wise how close I am to the pattern. Because it's a scarf, I don't think it really matters. Like, gauge is not too much of an issue unless you want a specific length or a specific, you know, yarn or whatever. And so I am really glad I had some sport weight yarn on hand to try this out. And then I am curious to see if this will work with some fingering weight yarn, because that is the yarn weight I have the most of, and I've fun ideas for if fingering weight yarn would work for this. Fun color combinations. And so yeah, it's fun. And this pattern, I think, like just came out like this past week too. And so it's a new pattern. It just somehow came across my Instagram feed, and I was like, that is so cute. And how do you do that double knit technique with two different colors? And so yeah, I just cast it on this morning, and I have a little triangle. And so I feel like as long as everything goes well with it, the next time I podcast in 2 weeks, it might be done, and then we can talk about it some more. But I was just really excited to share it with you all today. I was like, oh, do I film and then cast it on? But I really wanted to, because I knew that there would be 2 weeks until the next podcast after this podcast, and that might be done. I wanted to be able to at least talk about the cast on process and just show you a little bit of the start and my experience, without just being like, look, it's done, and then try to remember details about the cast on and any kind of like new things I learned. So yeah, anyway, if you have knit with this technique before, the double knit with like two different colors, I'm curious how you thought that went as well for you. I think there's something about this that's like really fun, and it's kind of making my brain work a little more, but I think in a good way. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for it. Okay, and then that's it for the knitting whips. As I've said before, I did do a little bit of spinning on my Shaggy Bear Farms Deboulet fiber in the colorway Dusty Rose. It is fiber I got from Rose City Yarn Crawl last year, and I was hoping to get it done this week, but I spent a lot more time knitting than spinning this week. Didn't get enough spinning done to bring it down and show it to you all, but it just looks the same as it did last week, basically. And then I do have one acquisition. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video, but we had a knit night last weekend, and Megan got in a big yarn order for all of us of our, I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast, but we had a plan for Flock this year, Flocks 2026. The past two flocks we knit with a certain yarn, certain colorway. Some of us choose different bases, right? But specific colorway, and then we all knit whatever pattern we want, and then we just look cute as a group in the same color. And so we picked the yarn color, picked the yarn dyer this year, and it's the yarn dyers Witch Fire Fibers, and we chose the color. The colorway is Ebb, EBB, and Megan made the big order for our entire group for this yarn, and she brought the yarn, and we got our yarn, and so I have the yarn to share with you all. I think Megan probably talked about it on her podcast, but here is my yarn. So I got 2 skeins in the classic sport base. So the classic sport base is 100% superwash merino, 328 yards for 100 grams. And yeah, here it is. So pretty. The pattern I am planning for these is the Winnie Top by Lily Kate, and that is a pattern I have been wanting to make ever since it came out. And it's one of those patterns where I'm like, I want to make it, but I don't have there's not a right yarn, color, or weight that I have in stash, or I get inspiration from, to buy right away. But I wanted to make it so bad, and then I was like, I think this is a good situation for this top. And so I'm very, very excited to start this. It is a V-neck top. It is a sleeveless top that has lace details around the V-neck and also on the hem. And it's so cute. It's so cute. I feel like it's very me type of pattern, and so I'm looking forward to it. I think we might cast this on soon. I think we might cast on during Rose City. Like, we might all cast on, potentially. So, yeah, I do have to, start getting that. There's a lot of cast-ons that happened for me in the past couple of weeks, and so it's exciting, but also I need to, chill a little bit. I need to make sure I have everything in my brain in the right, order, and just know what's happening. So, but I'm excited. I'm excited. This is not really a color I would choose by myself, but it's for a group knit. I'm down for basically any color. And this is a pretty color. I think I've been more down lately for darker colors, more blues, more greens. Yeah, I've been knitting with darker colors lately, and so I'm pretty down for this color. And yeah, I'm excited. So I also think this might be the first. Is this the first yarn that I bought from Witch Fire Fibers? I've bought fiber from them at Flock last year, but I don't think I've bought yarn. And so this is exciting for me to obviously I've heard of Witch Fire Fibers, I visited their booth and all of that, and I have friends who buy yarn from them all the time. But this is my first yarn purchase from them. And so it is exciting. And I just love it. I love it when I get to use yarn, either, like yarn with a different like fiber yarn, and also different yarn dyer. Like that's always fun. So yeah. Okay, that is all I have for you all today. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, we talked about my mostly finished objects, my new cast-ons, my whips. Spinning we just talked about, didn't share anything, my acquisition, and I think that's it. Yeah, that'll be it for today's episode. As I mentioned before, or throughout the video, there'll be no podcast video next weekend because I will be at Rose City Yarn Crawl, and I'm really excited for that. We're going with friends, and so it's been a great time. I think this will be my second year going, and so I have some purchasing plans, some yarn I'm looking out for, but we'll see what happens. My goal this year is to buy less yarn than I bought at last year's Rose City Yarn Crawl. I bought a lot of yarn last year, well, in general, but also specifically at Rose City Yarn Crawl. Part of me thinks maybe because it was my first one that I was just very excited about each store we went to. But this year, I foresee more opportunities to buy yarn and fiber at the events I'm going to this year, and so I want to keep it less this year. So I have some things I'm keeping an eye out for, but not too much. I'm hoping not too much, but I guess we'll all find out in 2 weeks when I film my next video. But if you're gonna be there, let me know if you see us, because there'll be a group of us. Feel free to say hi. And yeah, I'm hoping it's a great year for Rose City Yarn Crawl again. And I mean, I'm sure it will be. I'm excited to see. I'm can't quite keep straight exactly all of the store names that we went to last year. And I'm like, oh, if someone mentions a store name, I'm like, can you describe to me what it looked like and what was there, or what yarn I bought from there? And so it'll be fun to see if I can remember some things. But anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited to hang out with my friends. It's kind of like the thing I'm most excited for. And yeah, so that's all I have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed seeing my crazy new cast-ons this week. It was not something I planned, just kind of happened. And sometimes that is what makes me happy. So it's good. It's good. And let me know in the comments down below what you've been working on while listening or watching to the podcast, as always, because I love to hear about it. As you can tell, sometimes when I get inspiration and I just see either from you or just randomly on Instagram a new pattern, sometimes I'm like, I need to cast that on right away. And so please keep sharing. I love hearing about what you're working on, and sometimes new patterns to me. There's actually quite a lot of the times when you share patterns and what you're working on, they're new patterns to me, and I enjoy hearing about them. I always look them up, and so that I know what you're talking about and what you're working on, and so it's really nice. And yeah, thank you again so much for watching. I hope you have a great next 2 weeks before I talk to you all again. And if you're going to be at Rose City Yarn Crawl, I hope you have a great Rose City Yarn Crawl. And I'll see you and talk to you all in 2 weeks in the next video. Thank you. Bye.